Imagine a world where women were not just relegated to the background, but instead stood tall as leaders and rulers. A world where a woman could ascend to the throne and rule with strength and intelligence. This is not a fantasy, but the reality of ancient Egypt, where Hatshepsut rose to power as the first female pharaoh. She was Egypt's first pharaoh. Her name means first among noble women or foremost among noble women is her original title. She was the second historically confirmed female pharaoh, the first being Sobha-Neferu. Hatshepsut came to the throne of Egypt in 1478 BC, after the death of her husband, Thutmose II. Hatshepsut was the daughter of Thutmose I and his queen, Ahmose. Despite her inscriptions calling herself a woman, she elected to be represented as a male pharaoh about the 7th year of her rule. From 1570 to 1069 BCE, she was the 5th pharaoh of the 18th dynasty, the most opulent and the pinnacle of the Egyptian empire. Hatshepsut was Egypt's most famous and successful ruler after Cleopatra VII, reigned around 69 to 30 BCE. Hatshepsut has become one of the most famed and controversial ladies of Egypt and the ancient world in general, says historian Mark van der Meerope. As much as she is celebrated for being a great female leader whose reign was exceedingly successful, her controversy stems from the fact that according to Egyptian custom, no woman should have become pharaoh. Her name was removed from her monuments after she died, suggesting that Thutmose III wished to erase her from history. Later pharaohs receive credit for her many temples and structures. Welcome to Hallmark History, and we'd like to introduce you to a narrative that has inspired us for centuries, the story of one person's unwavering commitment to her goals, dreams, and ideals. Learn more about Hatshepsut, the Egyptian queen who broke barriers for women and etched her name in the annals of history, with us. In this exploration of Egypt's most influential female leader, you can expect to be amazed, inspired, and captivated. Please use the like, share, and subscribe buttons to receive notifications of new posts. Jean-François Champollion, 1790 to 1832 CE, the eminent Orientalist who decoded the Rosetta Stone, discovered her existence since he couldn't explain how statues of males could coexist with hieroglyphs of female monarchs. Hatshepsut was forgotten until these hieroglyphs were found in her temple at el-Bahri. The Egyptians believed that removing one's name from history hampered one's afterlife, therefore whoever excluded her from public knowledge did not wish her ill after death and retained her name in more private locations. Her name may have been forgotten outside the spotlight. Since Hatshepsut managed so many building projects, her name erasers may have missed some. Hatshepsut is one of Egypt's most beloved monarchs despite her efforts. From 1520 to 1492 BCE, Thutmose I's great wife Ahmose had a daughter named Hatshepsut. Thutmose II was Mutenefert's son, the second wife of Thutmose I's. At the age of 12, she lost her father and Hatshepsut married her half-brother Thutmose II, as Egyptian royals did. After being a queen, Hatshepsut became God's wife of Amun, Egypt's second highest honor for women. Thebes' most adored god, Amun, was godmaker and god-king. As the god's wife, Hatshepsut presumably presided over his festivities. She became a divinity by inspiring the god to create through music and dancing at festivals' beginnings. The god's wife of Amun's role is unknown, although as Egypt progressed, she became more powerful. Thutmose II's concubine, Isis, gave birth to his son Thutmose III, while Hatshepsut gave birth to Neferu. He named Thutmose III his heir. Hatshepsut became regent after Thutmose II's death, ruling Egypt until Thutmose III was old enough to rule. In her 8th regency, she became Egypt's pharaoh. Van der Meerope wrote, Hatshepsut gave up her female-only titles and became known as simply pharaoh. At some point, she even omitted the T from the end of her name to become His Majesty, Hatshepsut. After becoming king, she started dressing like a man in statues and reliefs. She acted masculinely because her breasts were covered. Hatshepsut even wearing a false beard. She began having herself depicted in the traditional king Shendit kilt and crown, along with a fake beard and male body as a way of asserting her authority. Some reliefs portrayed her as a male. Thutmose III was usually shown behind or below her in her statuary. She called her stepson king even though it was mostly ceremonial. Hatshepsut's art proves women as deserving of Egypt's crown as any male. Her male attire wasn't meant to deceive the commoners into thinking their pharaoh was male. Even if the Egyptians couldn't read the inscriptions, her name, "She is first among noble women," would have given her away. She claimed to be a pharaoh instead of denying her gender. Hatshepsut immediately legitimized her power after learning she was in unknown terrain. Her pharaonic power would not evaporate if questioned. Hatshepsut married her daughter Neferurat to Thutmose III and named her God's wife of Amun for political purposes. She would still be powerful if she had to cede power to Thutmose III because she was his stepmother and mother-in-law and her daughter was influential. These procedures weren't adequate, so she employed ritual to present herself as Amun's daughter and wife. She claims she was born a demigoddess by Amun disguised as Thutmose I. Her inscription commemorates her birth while her mother slept. He found her sleeping in the palace's splendor as her husband, Upper and Lower Egypt's King Thutmose I. After inhaling the heavenly scent, she looked towards His Majesty. After seeing her, he went over to quench his lust. She rejoiced upon seeing him in his divine form. Her body felt his adoration. Heaven permeated the palace. She strengthened her authority by depicting herself as co-ruler with Thutmose I in reliefs on public buildings, claiming that Amun had sent an oracle foretelling her ascension to power, and linking herself to the expulsion of the Hyksos 80 years before. The Semitic Hyksos settled and ruled Avaris in Lower Egypt. Ahmose of Thebes, who ruled Egypt from 1570 to 1544 BCE, easily defeated them, launching the New Kingdom. Later Egyptian historians presented the Hyksos, Asiatics, as feared invaders who plundered and desecrated sacred sites. Despite the Hyksos' inflated or inaccurate claims, Hatshepsut capitalized on the Egyptians' deep remembrance of their hatred for them. Her inscriptions read, "I corrected it. I replaced the delta of Avaris structures because Asiatic nomads were knocking them down." Van de Merope notes that even as king, they disobeyed God and Ra. She tried to bolster her position by claiming to be Ahmose's direct successor, whose name the people still remembered as their great liberator, and by refuting those who said women were unqualified to reign. She was Egypt's first openly chosen female pharaoh. Hatshepsut ordered her temple at Deir el-Bahri and military excursions as usual. Syria and Nubia were the military's targets. The campaigns may have been started to maintain the pharaoh's image as a warrior king who brought wealth into the realm through conquest, to continue Thutmose I campaign in those places, legitimizing her authority, or because she was provoked. The pharaohs of the New Kingdom, the Age of Empire, prioritized strong buffer zones nationwide to prevent a Hyksos invasion. She relied on Senenmut, a courtier whose relationship with the queen is unknown, for all of her campaigns, policies, and projects. Van de Merope noted Senenmut became famous at court despite being a commoner. He was Princess Neferu Mentor Ra's steward before Hatshepsut's ascension, as shown in several monuments. These construction projects, which boosted Hatshepsut's fame, worshipped the gods, and employed people, were her main priority. Due to their scale and elegance, Hatshepsut's buildings indicate a successful reign. She couldn't have completed her projects without abundant resources. Egyptologist Betsy Bryan writes, Hatshepsut built more than her predecessors. Thutmose I and II visited numerous Upper Egyptian sites, including Ahmose favorites Kamambo, Nikan, Hierakonpolis, El-Kab, Armont, and Elephantine. Hatshepsut prioritized Thebes. With several authorities in charge, she expanded Karnak's temple again. Because Egypt remained at peace for much of her 20-year reign, Hatshepsut was free to exploit Egypt's and Nubia's natural riches. As gold poured in from the eastern deserts and the south, Bab el-Silsilah began significant sandstone quarrying. Cedar was imported from the Levant, and ebony from Africa, by way of Punt, perhaps. Queen and official inscriptions detailed the monuments and its materials. Hatshepsut was so happy with the volume and range of luxury articles she was able to buy and donate in Amun's honor that she had a scene sculpted at Deir el-Bahri to show the Punt riches. Hatshepsut's expedition to Punt, now Somalia, was her proudest achievement. Punt was a trading partner since the Middle Kingdom, but voyages were expensive and time-consuming. Hatshepsut's luxurious voyage shows her rule's success. The expedition's relief includes a comprehensive description of the temple's opulence. The Punt ships carried heaps of myrrh resin, fresh myrrh trees, ebony and pure ivory, green gold from emus, cinnamon wood, kut wood, imet incense, cinder incense, eye cosmetic, apes, monkeys, dogs, and southern panther skins. This has never happened to any ruler. Egypt's most beautiful and visited temple is Deir el-Bahri. According to Breyer and Hobbs, she built one of Egypt's most magnificent temples against the cliffs beyond the Valley of the Kings and made delicate paintings. Her Nile-side temple had a lengthy slope from a courtyard of trees and pools to a terrace. Some of these punt-imported trees were the first successful tree transplants in history. The temple courtyard still has fossilized tree stumps. The lower patio had columns and a ramp to a second, equally spectacular deck. Her tomb was decorated with statues, reliefs, and inscriptions on the temple's rear cliffs. The Valley of the Kings was named after her successors, who were so awed by Hatshepsut's temple that they decided to be buried there. Hatshepsut erected more than any other pharaoh save Ramses II, 1279 to 1213 BCE. She built obelisks in Karnak and elsewhere. Pharaoh Hatshepsut's architectural projects were so broad that most museums that display ancient Egyptian art and artifacts have a piece he ordered. Thutmose III didn't only watch Hatshepsut rule. He survived her leadership by proving his importance as a commander and staying out of her way, according to Egyptologist James Henry Breasted. After Thutmose III defeated a Kadesh insurrection in 1457 BCE, Hatshepsut was forgotten, the famous Battle of Megiddo. Hatshepsut may have planned this campaign. Thutmose III, known as the Napoleon of ancient Egypt, became a powerful pharaoh after his military successes. He later destroyed monuments commemorating his stepmother's tyranny. Since Senenmut and Neferu had died, no one in the court had the power or willingness to change this ruling. Champollion puzzled name and the temple's inscriptions were found after some of these works were abandoned near her temple in Deir el-Bahri. Despite various explanations, Thutmose III's attempt to wipe Hatshepsut's name from history is largely due to her unorthodox reign. A woman in a man's role would have upset Ma'at, the pharaoh's major obligation: harmony, balance. The pharaoh set an example for his people, and Thutmose III may have worried that other women might look up to Hatshepsut and strive to control Egypt like Osiris and Isis did in the beginning. Ancient Egyptians valued tradition over change. No matter how effective her reign, a female pharaoh was against the monarchy, thus all allusions to her had to be forgotten. However, Hatshepsut exemplifies the Egyptian notion that a person lives on as long as their name is remembered. She was forgotten for generations throughout the New Kingdom. After Champollion rediscovered her name in the 19th century CE and others in the 20th, she gradually returned to life and took her proper place as one of Egypt's finest pharaohs. It wasn't until the 19th century that Hatshepsut's legacy was uncovered, but now her reign is generally considered one of the most prosperous in Egypt's long history. She is renowned for her bold management, successful military campaigns, and extensive construction endeavors. As a female leader in a predominantly male society, Hatshepsut blazed new ground, and her leadership is often held up as an inspiration for modern feminists. Finally reaching the end of our trip into Hatshepsut's life and legacy, we can't help but be impressed by this strong and magnificent woman. The narrative of Hatshepsut has always been an inspiration because of her bravery, perseverance, and drive. The influence of Hatshepsut's life and reign, in which she became the first female pharaoh and oversaw many firsts, cannot be overstated. She has showed us that women are just as capable, brilliant, and powerful as men, and that a leader is not defined by their gender but by their actions and achievements. Insight into Hatshepsut and the status of women in ancient Egypt, we hope you find, through this video. Keep your mind open, your spirit alive, and your curiosity alive. In addition to leaving a comment about how this video has motivated you, please subscribe to our channel so that you can watch all of our future uploads. Thank you for watching.